Welcome to part 2 of the 1970 Triumph Trophy 250 update video. In this video, I'm going to discuss just exactly how the repair plans that I had mentioned in the prior video panned out. And I will also mention that the first video was intended to be a private posting for a family member, and I failed to do that properly on YouTube, and I actually made it public. So subsequently, there were several folks who watched it, and I thought possibly those people might be interested in seeing how the repairs that I'd mentioned turned out. So I have decided to make this video public, and will do so. For the most part, nothing that I had planned to do in the way that I had stated in the first video actually turned out that way at all, because Murphy's Law. So with the exception of maybe two things, everything had to be changed. The tightening of the front forks went exactly as planned. I was able to simply loosen the squeeze clamp and then tighten the nut on top to decrease the play in the front suspension. I did also errantly state that there were taper bearings in the front suspension assembly, or the front steering assembly. That's not true. They are actually ball bearings. You know, the 50-year-old motorcycle, no taper bearings. So the suspension is working as designed. No play in the steering head, which is terrific. And of course, the battery installation went without a hitch. That's just a straightforward, installation of a battery, right? So nothing to talk about there. However, nothing else that I had discussed in video 1 went exactly as planned. We'll start on the end here. So the air filter, which was the original, turned out to be a little dirtier than I would have liked, and for the relatively cheap cost of a new one, I just decided to buy that and install. So you'll see a nice white paper element through the chrome screen there. The original carburetor, while working, just was not working at a level where I was happy. The motorcycle would start properly, but just wouldn't idle. I have a sense that maybe there was not a clog, but maybe some type of deformation in the idle circuit that would stop the motorcycle from idling properly. So subsequently, I'd come to a stop sign or a traffic light, and the motorcycle would want to quit unless I continually left the throttle open a bit. So I went ahead and ordered a new R928 carburetor and installed that, and it is now running beautifully. The only modifications from original I needed to make were, of course, to remove the choke mechanism. This motorcycle does not have a choke. And then I also needed to swap the top plate on the carburetor so that the throttle cable assembly would fit properly. And once done, the carburetor mounted up perfectly and is working really well. As far as the fueling system, that didn't go as planned either. The original Triumph petcocks, while externally appearing to be in good shape, were actually too far gone to be saved. I did try removing the spring clip or squeeze clamp here and rebuilding the original petcocks with a new O-ring, but unfortunately the brass material inside was pitted so severely that the sealing properties couldn't be restored by simply replacing the O-ring. So I went ahead and ordered new UK-made, very good quality petcocks, one on either side. The petcock on the left side, which is the reserve, unfortunately did not come stamped with an R indicating reserve. So what I did, I don't know if you can see that, I went ahead and just took my stamping kit and stamped an R on that to try and mimic as closely as possible the original configuration to keep things looking as stock as possible. The fuel line, the original fuel line, of course, was also leaking, unfortunately. So I decided to go with something I've seen on some of the Triumph Twins T120s or whatever, which is this yellow fuel line, which I think looks pretty cool. I don't know if that was ever stock on any other of the Triumph motorcycles, but I've seen it both on the road and in pictures and videos, so I figured I would try and do that, and I think it looks all right. If I ever get any grief about it, I can always put black rubber fuel hose on there and get it back to looking close to stock. I've installed these, what are called ear clamps, to fix the fuel line to the fittings. I tried some, what I guess the Brits call Jubilee clips, and what we just call, you know, hose clamps or what have you here in the States, and they just looked horrible, and they were way too big for the outside diameter of the fuel hose. So these ear clamps look really nice, and I know they've been used in other applications. I don't know if I've ever seen them on a British motorcycle, but there you have it. So what else have I done? I also replaced the gasket on the valve adjustment cover here, which was leaking. You can still see it's leaking a tiny little bit, but nowhere near as badly as it was with the old gasket. And then I've just performed a regular fluid service, changed the engine oil here, installed new gear oil in the transmission, and on the left side of the motorcycle there is a large fill plug you can see down there that's slotted. That is for filling the chain case. That takes 4 ounces of 20 weight oil. So the motorcycle is now properly oiled and put together in such a way that it should be reliable and a good runner. One thing I discovered anew, I knew about this, but was reminded, I guess I should say, is that while I changed the front tire about 11 years ago with an original K70 style Dunlop, I guess I had failed to do so on the back. So the back tire is actually the original 4.00-18 Dunlop K70 tire, which is obviously you don't want to be running on a 50-year-old tire. So I went to, I think it was Drag Specialties, and I found I guess a sympathetic reproduction of a K70. It still has a Dunlop branding on it, so I guess it's a Dunlop tire, right? But it's no longer manufactured in the UK. It's actually manufactured in, oh gosh, I want to say Thailand, but I don't know if that's exactly right. Maybe the Philippines. I remember seeing a marking on it somewhere, but apparently they're no longer manufacturing that in the UK. So when I have a minute, I'll put that on, and then I guess I'll follow up with a part 3 where we show the bike starting, running, maybe a helmet cam video of the bike in action, and we'll just we'll take it from there. So thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for part 3, which should be coming pretty soon.